So switching gears, you mentioned that you were with Eric B and that you two have a son together. Can you speak on how you guys met and how you guys started kind of dating or whatever at that time?
Through Pac. Pac had an obsession for 80s hip hop. Of course, because he was a kid back then and he kind of idolized artists like Eric B. and Rakim, because Rakim, I think all of us as songwriters, if you did rap, you idolize Rakim because he's the God MC. He's known as the God MCs, and his lyrical content was just it was way before its time, and it was phenomenal, and it was full of spirituality. It was full of uplifting black people at that time. So he had an obsession for not just the lyrical content, but the look, because we all know originally he grew up in New York. So he was a big fan of Eric B and Rakim. And I don't know what they were doing together or where they were coming from, but I met Eric B through Tupac. Because I never dated anybody at Death Row. I was just a single girl working up there, and I wasn't really interested. At the time, they're all icons now, but at the time, they were peers. And as a female rapper, I was just as dope as they were, even though I wasn't letting them know what I was doing. I thought I was just as talented as they was. So I never gave anybody any action up there. So one day, and it wasn't just Eric B that was with him. Big Daddy Kane was with him that day too. And I was a receptionist. I hadn't been promoted to the assistant studio manager yet. So when Pac arrived, before he arrived, he gave me a food order. He called and he was like, I'm bringing some people with me and we're hungry. Make sure we have, it was a famous restaurant. It was a soul food restaurant. I can't remember the name of it. Make sure we have plates from there. And then he gets off the phone and I was like, how many plates? And he was like, a bunch of plates, because he had the Outlaws with him too. He hangs up the phone and then he calls back. And because I'm the receptionist, I had a feeling it was him because the way it hung up and called right back. And I used to have a nickname for him. I used to call him Almond Head for obvious reasons. If you look at the shape of his head and that long chin. So I was like, what, Almond Head? And he was like, I need you to get me a fish plate. And I was like, a fish plate? And he was like, yeah, I got somebody with me that's not a meat eater, but he eat fish. He needs to have a fish plate. And I was like, okay, no worries. Get off the phone with him. The runner goes and we put in a big food order. Isis is in the back. She calls in the credit card for it. All the food comes and I go with the runner to set up all the plates. I think it was Studio B, and it had a really big kitchen. And I set up all the plates that way when everybody came in, they could just grab a to-go plate, do whatever they wanted to do, set up all the cups because we had a soda machine there at the time. So I just wanted it to be nice because I didn't know who he was bringing. Hell, he could have been bringing, it's Tupac. He could have had Barry Gordy. He could have had actresses with him. He could have, I don't know, right? So I just wanted it to be set up nice. But I only ordered three three dishes that had fish in them, and I didn't separate them. What I should have did was I should have separated them from the rest of the food, right? Especially after getting that special instruction. So when they come to the studio, my first encounter with Eric B is people used to have to get frisked. Everybody coming into the studio, okay? That's why that question about did Tupac wear a vest all the time? Not coming to the studio, because security, Reggie Wright had a team of security officers that were off-duty police officers, and I'm telling you, when you got frisked, man, you got frisked, okay? You almost got violated when they frisked you down, okay? Because the police don't play when they frisking people down. So Pac comes in and he stops and he turns and looks at Big Daddy Kane and Eric B and Rakim, and he like, man, y'all got to sign in and y'all got to get frisked. So of course, they're who they are, right? They're hip hop legends. They're like pioneers. So they feel in some type of way. And my little cutesy self is just like, yeah, guys, 1 second. And I'm waving security to come do their thing. And instead of them writing their names down, because I know who they are, it's freaking Big Daddy Kane and Eric B, right? So I write Big Daddy Kane's name down, and then I write Eric's name down, but I spelled Eric with the K, knowing damn well, but I was kind of like having a fan moment too, because just as much as Pac loved them, I did too. And Eric B he spells his name with a C and not a K. And then I put the thing down that I was signing, and he saw his name. He like, come on, young, come on. Why you do that? And I was like, what I do? And he was like, this. And he points at the K. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But I was batting my eyes and kind of flirty. And he was like, nah, you good. You good. Just, respect, respect. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. And he goes to the back. Well, when they get to the back to where all the food is, somebody's ass, and I don't know if it was one of the outlaws or somebody else that was working in another studio, the fish plates are gone. So Eric B comes back to the front by himself, and he's like, excuse me. And I'm like, yes, I'm sitting. And he says, Pac said he had you order some fish plates for me. Did you separate them? Do you have them hidden? Because they're not back there. Now I'm mad because I got a little gangster in me too. I'm like, they not back there. So I walk to the back and I check all the plates, and the fish plates have come up missing. So I make my way back to the front. And at the time when I was in the back, I'm apologizing. I'm like, oh, I should have separated those dishes. I'm so sorry. I did not mean for that to happen. I don't know what do you want me to do? And he's like, nah, don't worry about it. And he goes to the back, and then he comes back to the front, and he gives me $200, and he says, can you just order me another plate of fish? And I'm like, yeah, but this is too much money. And he like, no, 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 the change is for you. He was like, you couldn't have known that was going to happen. The change is for you. And I give the runner $100, and I tell the runner this one's for him, and then I keep $100. And when the dish came, I personally took it back to Eric B and sat him in the kitchen so he could have his plate. It was hot. It was hotter than the other food. It was fresh, and he enjoyed his plate. Fast forward 2 days after that, Eric B calls up to Can-Am. Now, him and Pac are kind of just hanging at this time. And I'm doing my normal, going to work, going to recording studios, going to auditions to be on dance videos. He calls the studio, and he called to speak to Tupac. And he like, yo, is Pac there? And I was like, nah. And he was like, what time you expect him? And I said, well, I can't really give you that information. I couldn't tell people what time the artist, no matter if they were a big famous artist them damn selves. I said, well, I can't really release that information. He said, but he told me he was going to be there. And I was like, yeah, he hasn't arrived yet. And then he says, well, why don't you let me take you out? And my dumb ass, as young as I am, and my first response was, who? Awkward moment. And he like, you. And he said, who else is on the phone? And I was like, you want to take me out? And he was like, yeah, I would love to. And then my dumb ass, awkward ass again. And I said, to do what? And he was like, you know what? Never mind. And he hung up the phone on me. That was my first encounter of knowing that Eric B liked me. And then the next day I saw him at the studio, and even though I was still awkward, because he is 13 years older than me. So even though I was a bit awkward on that phone call, I had my shit together the next time he came into the studio. So now I'm hitting on him. So what happened to wanting to take me out? And he was like, oh, I thought you was acting funny on the phone. And I was like, no, I didn't think anybody kind of really liked me like that. And I was like, you're such like, oh, you're who you are. Like, it was an awkward moment. And he was like, nah, it's all good. And he was like, let's go get something to eat. He was like, what time you off? And I was about to get off in a couple of hours. And that's how me and Eric B's whole thing started. I met him through Tupac.
Nice. Okay. We interviewed Eric B. I want to say it was probably like 2 years ago or so, but he had gotten on the phone with Reggie when we were doing a live stream. But did you ever overhear him talking about any plans or anything he wanted to do involving the Death Row East label?
Yeah, I thought he was supposed to be the president of that division. Am I wrong?
No, I think that's correct. I think that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember him telling me, and it was like a world, we really fell head over heels for each other, Eric B and I. I remember him saying and asking me, so when I become president of Death Row East, how do you feel about living on the East Coast? And I remember telling him, well, I have a life here. And he was like, yeah, but we finna change your life. So yeah, he was supposed to be that.